All right, take five, I guess. I just got 7 minutes into recording the video, but I forgot to call my mom to tell her that I was about to start recording, so she called me right in the middle of recording, and I lost everything from that. No big deal. It's only 7 minutes, but it's slightly annoying. It's cool though. She's getting me in and out. Not for that, for another thing, but still. So before I get this video started, I want to give a quick shout out to my friend Enrique over at Enrique's Vlogs. I told me that I would give him a shout out. Uh, so is that, and also I want to thank George for this video idea, because I'm not even gonna lie. After I made that last video, I had no idea what I was gonna do. I'm two videos in. I'm already running out of ideas. So I want to thank George real quick for giving me this idea. So as the title states, today I'm going to be looking at who I think are the top 10 Lakers of all time. The Lakers are one of the most decorated teams in sports history, one of the best teams in sports history, right behind the Celtics for most finals of all time. But more importantly, we've had some of the greatest players of all time. So I want to take a deep dive into who I think are the greatest. And yeah, so let's just get into it. So starting at number 10, which was surprisingly enough was the hardest part of this video, for trying to find out who was the 10th best player of all time. You would think it would be number 1, but absolutely not. Number 10th was the 10th position was definitely the hardest. But I ended up putting Pau Gasol at number 10, and a lot of lists have him like number 19, number 18, something up there. But I feel like Pau Gasol's really overlooked. I looked at like Yale Goodrich or Robert Ory or some other people, just some other candidates to put at this number 10 position. But after looking at them and after looking at their stats and their accomplishment with the Lakers, then I decided on Pau Gasol. He's a 2-time champion and a 3-time All-Star, and he was averaging close to 20 points per game every single season that he was playing with us. Great defender, of course, so he was getting it done on both sides of the court, both on offense and defense, and he was just a great compliment to Kobe Bryant. In anybody who was old enough to remember those finals, 2009 and 2010, which I personally am not. I was like 4 and 5, but still, I've seen old playbacks and highlights, and Pau Gasol was just a great compliment to Kobe Bryant's game, and a vital part of that team that went back to back. So I feel like Pau gets really overrated, or not overrated, overlooked. Very different things. Moving on to number 9, I have George Mikan. And fun fact about George Mikan, the Lakers actually refused to retire his number because of the fact that he played for the Minneapolis Lakers before they moved to Los Angeles. So I guess they just don't recognize him as a Laker, even though we still take credit for those Minneapolis championships. So, but that's beside the point. The point is, George Mikan, 5-time champion and a 4-time All-Star, but you got to keep in mind the fact that George Mikan played in an era before they started recording Finals MVPs, and they only started having All-Star games about midway through his career. So who knows what he could have done if they had been recording all that back then. But as it stands right now, all his recorded stats and everything like that, he's a 5-time champion. Technically 0-time Finals MVP because it wasn't a thing yet, and only a 4-time All-Star, which is why I have to have him so low on this list. I can almost guarantee you that if those are all recorded, then he would be much higher on this list. But unfortunately for him, he just played way ahead of, or way back in that era. Moving on to number 8, I have James Worthy, a 4-time champion and a 1-time Finals MVP. And a 7-time All-Star, and what can I say? He was on the Laker team that went on that. Didn't go back to back or anything, but it was a real good short time span in which they won those 4 championships. He was on the same team as Wilt Chamberlain and still got Finals MVP, and that 7-time All-Star, yeah, whatever. I actually originally didn't have James Worthy on this list, just due to the fact that he completely skipped my mind. Around 3 hours of research, though, I finally remembered him from scrolling through just like the best. Not technically, not even remembered him. I was reminded of him when I was scrolling through what other people thought the best Lakers of all time were. So I looked into his resume, and of course that not much else to say. not insanely high on this list, but to make a top 10 list for the Lakers is a feat of its own. So yeah, that's it for him, I guess. Moving on to Jerry West, who I actually have much lower than a lot of lists. Some lists have him top 5, and some lists even have top 3. I have him at number 7. Uh, just due to the fact that I feel he didn't have as many accolades as other people on this list. He's a one-time champion and a one-time Finals MVP. And that Finals MVP actually wasn't for that Finals that they won. He is the only player in NBA history to win a Finals MVP on the losing side. That year, the Celtics won the Finals, but he still got Finals MVP. And then a 14-time All-Star. Of course, we all know Jerry West is one of the greatest passers of all time. But from here on out, the rest of these players all have broken some form of record for the Lakers, and Jerry West hasn't. So in my opinion, that's why I can't put him anywhere higher on this list. Moving on to number 6, I have Elgin Baylor. He is a one-time champion, 11-time All-Star. He has the most points per game in Laker history and the most total rebounds in Laker history. Which, when you see somebody with records, like in Elgin Baylor's case, is not just focused on one aspect of his game. It's not just offense, it's not just defense. It's a steady mix of the two. Most points per game of all time, of course, that's offense, and most total rebounds of all time, that could technically be offense too, but we mainly see that as a defensive stat. So just getting it done on both ends. Only one championship, which is actually kind of surprising me because of just the teammates that he had. Wilt Chamberlain, I do believe he was on the same team as James Worthy too, or was it Jerry West? One of the two, but still a lot of help, but also a lot of competition against the Celtics. Moving on to the top 5, and it hurt me to put him this low because he's one of my favorite of all time, but I had to put him this low. Wilt Chamberlain, a one-time champion, a one-time Finals MVP, 4-time All-Star, and the most minutes per game for the Lakers and the most rebounds per game in Laker history. Of course, I as I stated in my last video, I think he's the greatest player of all times, but when it comes into terms of just for the Lakers, he only played with the Lakers the last few years of his career, but he was still able to get these records and bring us a championship, of course. If he had played longer, then he definitely would have. If he played longer for the Lakers, then of course he would have been higher. But that's the case for pretty much anybody on this list. So that's the reason why he's only number 5. But moving on to somebody else who I feel I have slightly lower ranked than a lot of other people, I have Shaquille O'Neal. Not that much lower, but most people have him in the top 3. I only have him as number 4. He's a 3-time champion and 3-time Finals MVP in that year where the Lakers three-peated with Kobe. He's a 1-time regular season MVP for the Lakers, 4-time All-Star for the Lakers, and the highest player efficiency rating for the Lakers. I feel like I'm saying Lakers a lot. I don't know. It's part of the video, but I just ramble a lot. I'm like a babbling idiot. But a lot of people have Shaq a lot higher or not a lot higher on this list, but nevertheless higher on this list. I have him lower because he doesn't have. I did hours of research, bro. Like, I thought this was gonna be just like straight to the point, maybe like 30 minutes of research, look up a video or two and just done, bro. I'm talking like 4 or 5 hours of research. Ridiculous. Anyway, but what I found in that research is Shaq, of course, averaged a lot, but he was out of his prime with the Lakers. We all know him as, a Magic player with Penny Hardaway and, I'm drawing a blank. Who was it? I don't know, but you know who I'm talking about. But Shaq was out of his prime. Of course, this is after his Magic days. So that's why I couldn't put him quite in the top 3. But the people I could put in the top 3 have a lot more accomplishments with the Lakers than Shaq does. Starting with number 3, a lot of people have him as number 1. I personally think he's the 3rd best Laker of all time, Magic Johnson, 5-time NBA champion, 3-time Finals MVP, 3-time regular season MVP, 12-time All-Star, most assists in Laker history, most assists per game in Laker history, and highest offensive rating in Laker history. I'm so thankful that Magic was playing with the Lakers his entire career. Not only because, of course, I'm a Laker fan and he's one of the greatest of all time, but also it just made this so much easier. I could just look up like what he did in his career and boom, and like that's all for the Lakers. But yeah, just of course he was on the same team as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, which is insane considering the fact that like the best point guard of all time and maybe the best center of all time on the same team. Only won 5 championships together, which nothing to scoff at, of course, but still. Magic actually won 3 out of those 5 Finals MVP. But I couldn't put him quite over Kareem because I'll talk about Kareem in a second. But as far as Magic goes, of course, one of the best passers of all time, one of the most versatile players of all time. In the aspect that he could literally play any position that he wanted to, and he has. He played center when Kareem was injured. He could play power forward, small forward, shooting guard, point guard, anything that he wanted to, which is probably a big reason why he's commonly accepted as the best point guard of all time. But yeah, that's what gets Magic up into the top 3. But moving on to 2 just insane players. Number 2 being Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the same 5 championships as Magic, and as you may have guessed, the other 2 Finals MVPs from those championships. 3-time regular season MVP, 12-time All-Star. He has the most 2-point field goals in Laker history, the most defensive rebounds in Laker history, most offensive rebounds, and the most blocks in Laker history. So most of his accolades surprisingly coming from defense, but it's not that surprising considering the fact that when he was on the Lakers, he was of course out of his Milwaukee days when he was, the scorer that we know more, but still had the most 2-point field goals of all time, 38,000 points in a career, and he spent a healthy amount of time with the Lakers, which is a big reason why he's number 2. But I had to put this guy in number 1. Nobody, in my opinion, nobody else rivals him for the best Laker of all time. I think if you put him anywhere else but number 1, it's a bad list, and your opinion is not valid. But I have, of course, number 1, Kobe Bryant. Played with the Lakers his entire career, his entire 20-season career, of course, drafted by the Hornets, but demanded a trade to the Lakers. He's 5 championships, 2 Finals MVPs, a regular season MVP where, let's be real here, he got robbed. Steve Nash, of course, a great player, but I feel like a lot of people can agree that Kobe deserved that MVP. 35 points per game and still didn't get it. Of course, an 18-time All-Star, and then this is like where it gets like crazy. The most points in Laker history, the most games played in Laker history, the most minutes played in Laker history, the most field goals in Laker history, the most 3-pointers in Laker history, the most steals in Laker history, and the most free throws in Laker history. There's almost nothing else to say. Just by far the greatest Laker of all time, in my opinion. Even Magic, who a lot of people think is the best Laker of all time, agrees that Kobe is indeed the greatest Laker of all time. The most notorious Laker of all time for sure. Just dominant on the offensive end, and don't forget his defense too. One of super underrated aspect of his game. Have you guys seen that clip of him blocking Yao Ming? Like 6'6" Kobe Bryant blocking 7'6" Yao Ming in the paint. That's only one play, but like he had just so many other plays like that. Of course, one of the greatest dunkers of all time, one of the most athletic dunkers of all time. Yeah, there's no arguing. There's no arguing. Kobe Bryant, greatest Laker of all time. That concludes this video. Like, what I want to know what you would change about the video. Who would you take off? Who would you add on? Would you switch people around in other ways? Because I know for a fact this isn't waterproof. I'm not even gonna claim that this list is factual in any way. A lot of this is opinion based, but yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Appreciate you for watching. Like I said, leave in the comments what you would change about this list. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. Bye.